We moved in because it felt perfect. Gated entrance, trimmed lawns, identical houses painted in soft, neutral colours, the kind of place where everything looked controlled, safe. Too safe, maybe. The realtor handed us a welcome packet on day one, smiling too wide. "Just some standard HOA guidelines," she said. That night we read them at the kitchen table. Most were normal. Keep the lawn trimmed, no loud music after 10. Then there were the others. All porch lights must remain blue after sunset. No whistling outdoors after sundown. Do not acknowledge neighborhood watch in inspections. I remember laughing under my breath. My wife didn't. "Why blue?" she asked quietly. I shrugged. Probably aesthetic. We replaced the porch bulb that evening. Soft blue glow. It cast everything in a dull, unnatural shade. The house looked different, like it didn't belong to us anymore. The first few nights passed without issue. The neighborhood stayed silent. No dogs barking, no cars passing, just a stillness that pressed against the windows. On the fourth night, the light went out. No flicker, no warning, just darkness. I noticed it when the living room felt wrong, too dim, too heavy. "Did the bulb die?" my wife asked. "I just changed it." I stepped onto the porch. The air was colder than it should have been, dry, still. The bulb above me hung dark and empty. I reached for the switch inside. Nothing. A faint sound drifted down the street. Footsteps. Slow, synchronized. I froze. My skin prickled, a thin layer of cold sweat forming along my neck. The footsteps stopped. I turned. They were already there. 5 of them. Standing on the sidewalk across the street, perfectly still. Reflective vests caught the faint glow from neighboring houses, shimmering dully in the blue light. Each one held a heavy flashlight pointed down at the ground. Their faces, I couldn't see them clearly, too dark, too still. My breath came uneven, shallow. "Close the door," my wife whispered from behind me. I didn't move. One of them lifted their flashlight, slowly. The beam clicked on, slicing through the dark. It landed at my feet, bright, harsh. Then another light flicked on, then another. 5 beams, all pointed at the porch, at me. A low hum filled the air, not from them, from everywhere, like the neighborhood itself was vibrating. "Sir," the voice said, flat, empty, too calm, "your light is non-compliant." My fingers trembled against the doorframe. The wood felt damp beneath my grip. "I'll fix it in the morning," I said, my voice thinner than I expected. A pause. Then, "Correction is required immediately." The beams shifted, rising, blinding. I raised a hand to shield my eyes. The light burned white, too intense, making my vision swim. Behind me, I heard my wife step back, a soft, panicked breath catching in her throat. "Please step outside," the voice said. Closer now. I hadn't seen them move, but they were closer, at the edge of the lawn. The smell reached me then, burnt plastic, and something else beneath it. Rot. My stomach twisted. "I'm not—" I started. The lights cut out. All at once. Darkness swallowed everything. For a moment there was nothing. No sound, no movement. Then a soft click above me. The porch light flickered back on. Blue. I blinked, spots dancing in my vision as it adjusted. The sidewalk was empty. No vests, no figures, nothing. Just silence. I stood there for a long time, my chest rising and falling too fast, my hands still shaking. "Are they gone?" my wife whispered. I didn't answer. I was staring at the porch light, at the bulb, because it wasn't the one I installed. This one looked older, clouded, and inside the glass, something moved, slow, pressing against the surface from within. I stepped back, my heel catching on the treasure hold. The light hummed softly overhead, and just before it dimmed again, I noticed the shape shift, stretch, as if something in there had just turned to look down at me.
We moved in because it was new. Fresh paint, clean lines, no history. That's what they told us. The townhouse was one of 12 in a perfect row, identical doors, identical windows, even the same faint smell of drywall and varnish hung in every room. It felt unfinished somehow, like it hadn't settled yet. We noticed the door on the third night. It was tucked behind the pantry shelves, small, square, barely visible unless you crouched low enough to see the seam in the wall. At first, I thought it was just an access panel, wiring, pipes, something like that. But there was no handle, just a thin groove. I ran my fingers along it. Dust gathered under my nails, thick and undisturbed. "Did you know about this?" I asked. My partner shook their head slowly. The air around the door felt colder, not dramatically, just enough to notice. I pressed against it. It gave a soft click. Then it opened. A dark space yawned behind it, narrow and low. The smell hit immediately. Damp earth, stale air, and something faintly sour underneath. I grabbed a flashlight. The beam cut through the dark, revealing a crawl space. Dirt floor, wooden supports, thick cables snaking along the walls. It looked normal, until I leaned further in. The space didn't end. It stretched, farther than it should. A long, continuous tunnel disappearing into darkness on both sides. "Probably connects the units," I said, but my voice felt thin, unconvincing. We closed it. At least we tried to forget about it. That didn't last. The first sound came the next night, a faint dragging, slow, wet, like something heavy being pulled across dirt.
I sat up in bed, my skin prickling. The room felt colder than before. "Did you hear that?" I whispered. No answer. The sound came again, closer, from the walls. I held my breath. It moved along slowly, passing behind the bedroom wall, then stopping right behind our headboard. The silence stretched thin. I could hear my own breathing, shallow, uneven, and then something else, breathing back, low, wet, close. My chest tightened. My hands trembled so hard I had to press them into the mattress to keep them still. It stayed there, listening. Minutes passed, or longer. Then the dragging resumed, slowly moving away. We didn't sleep. The next morning I checked the pantry door. It was slightly open. I know we closed it. I know we did. A thin line of dirt stretched from the gap, trailing out onto the kitchen floor. That night I stayed awake, waiting. The sound returned, dragging, heavier this time, closer. I slipped out of bed, my legs unsteady, and moved towards the pantry. The air grew colder with every step, the smell thickening until it coated the back of my throat. The door was open, wide. Darkness inside seemed deeper than before. The dragging stopped right on the other side. I raised the flashlight with shaking hands. The beam slid into the crawl space. For a second there was nothing. Then movement. Something long, pale, pressed low against the dirt. Too many joints, too smooth in places, too broken in others. It shifted, slowly, turning towards me. The light caught a section of it, and I saw indentations along its surface, shallow impressions, like faces, dozens of them, flattened, pressed into it, all frozen in silent, open-mouthed expressions. The thing inhaled, a deep, wet sound, and I realized it wasn't just moving through the walls. It was stopping at every house, at every bed, listening, learning. The flashlight slipped from my hand, clattering loudly against the floor. The sound echoed into the crawl space. The thing went still. Then it began to move faster, towards me, and somewhere down the row, through the walls, I heard it pass another bedroom, pause, and mimic the sound of someone breathing perfectly. I noticed him sometime afternoon, across the street, in the front window, just standing there. At first it didn't seem strange. People linger in windows all the time, watching the street, waiting for something. But then he raised his hand, slowly, and waved. Not a normal wave, not loose or casual, stiff, controlled, like the motion was being repeated instead of chosen.
I gave a small wave back, more out of reflex than anything else, then went about my day. I made coffee, answered emails, let the afternoon drift. When I passed the window again, he was still there, still waving. Same motion, same pace. My chest tightened slightly. I checked the time. 3:17 p.m. I knew I'd seen him earlier, around noon, maybe before that. I stood there longer this time, watching. His arm never dropped. Up, down, up, down. Perfect rhythm, no variation. The light in his house hadn't changed either. No shadows shifting, no movement behind him. Just him, and that wave. A thin layer of sweat formed along the back of my neck. I stepped outside. The air felt wrong, still, heavy, like it was holding something in. "Hey!" I called. My voice sounded small. He didn't react, didn't blink, didn't stop. Up, down, up, down. I took a few steps closer to the street, my shoes scraping softly against the pavement. The smell hit me then, faint, but there. Damp wood, dust, and something sour beneath it. I swallowed hard. "Are you okay?" I tried again. Nothing. Just that same motion. I went back inside and grabbed my phone. My fingers trembled slightly as I dialed. I didn't say much, just that something felt off, that my neighbor hadn't moved in hours. They said they'd send someone. I stayed by the window, watching, waiting. He never stopped. Not once. When the police arrived, the sound of their tires crunching against the curb seemed too loud, too sharp. They knocked on his door. No answer. They forced it open. I leaned closer to the glass, my breath fogging the pain. Minutes passed. Too many. One of the officers stepped back outside, his posture rigid. Another followed, speaking into a radio, his voice low and tight. Something was wrong. Very wrong. I opened my door, stepping onto the porch. "What's going on?" I asked. The officer looked at me, his expression unreadable. "There's no one inside." A cold weight dropped into my stomach. "What do you mean? He's right—" I turned. The window. Empty. No figure. No movement. Just darkness. My throat tightened. "That's not possible," I whispered. The officer said something else, but I didn't hear it, because something pulled my attention back, not across the street, behind me, toward my own house, a reflection in the glass of my front door. I froze. Slowly, I turned. My bedroom window faced the street. Second floor. The curtains were open, and there, standing in the center of the room, was me. Same clothes, same posture,
But the face, it wasn't right. Too still, too smooth. The arm lifted, slow, deliberate, and began to wave. Up, down, up, down. My breath came in short, broken bursts. My hands shook so hard I dropped my phone on the porch. The officer was saying something, moving toward me. I couldn't look away, because the thing in my window wasn't looking at me. It was facing outward, toward the street, toward nothing, waving at an empty space where someone used to be. And as I watched, its movement didn't change, didn't falter, didn't stop. Not even when, slowly, its head began to turn, just slightly, just enough that I realized it wasn't mimicking me anymore. I was the one starting to match it.